A new badger cull is about to begin in Gloucestershire and Somerset, the same areas where the last one happened a couple of years ago. That was deemed to, well, just over last year, that was deemed to have been a bit of a flop. Well, Rosie Woodroffe is a badger ecologist from the Zoological Society of London, and she was a member of the team that designed the so-called randomised badger culling trial. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Since it didn't work, why are we doing it again?
Well, to clarify, I wasn't part of these pilot culls from last year. The reason that they're going forward is actually partly because they were always licensed to go forward for 4 years, because it takes 4 years to deliver any benefit at all. They're going forward again this time with the aim of trying to do better than last year. But unfortunately, they're going forward without the monitoring that will actually tell them whether it's succeeded.
Good Lord. Why?
Well, you'd probably better ask the government
indeed,
that.
You're not responsible, as you say, but why do you think?
Well, I don't really know, to be honest. Last year's culls failed very clearly to reach their targets, and those are not just arbitrary targets. Badger culling can make TB in cattle worse rather than better if you don't kill enough badgers fast enough.
Because you were enthusiastic about it originally before it started, weren't you?
I was part of the randomised badger culling trial, which at that point it looked as though badger culling was potentially a promising way of controlling cattle TB. That was back in 1998 when that started.
Oh.
These pilots that happened last year were intended to take the best of what we learned from the randomised badger culling trial to deliver culls which were supposed to be both cheaper and more effective. But I was part of a large consensus among the scientific community who cautioned the government at the time that this approach risked making things worse rather than better. And it's potentially the case that will be borne out.
And yet you get plenty of people saying, including, I think, the NFU, saying, look, it is essential that we do this. And the fact that it didn't work last time in exactly the way that was expected, we've learned a lot from that, and now we can move on. I mean, isn't that a reasonable approach?
Well, I think it would be a reasonable approach if the more badgers you killed, the greater the benefit you deliver. But unfortunately, that's not a straight line. So what we found in the randomised badger culling trial is that if you kill about 30% of the badgers, you actually increase the TB years to cattle. If you kill 70% of the badgers, that's when you start to see some sort of a benefit.
Right, and
but we don't know where between 30 and 50, between 30 and 70, the switch happens. And just to give you the numbers, last year's culls killed somewhere between 31 and 56% of the local badgers. So they're in that danger zone where they could very well have increased cattle TB.
But couldn't you say, shouldn't you say, well, they got close to the 70% mark with the experience they gained then, this time they will get there, and then they'd meet your criteria, wouldn't they, if they did hit that 70% this time?
Well, one would hope. So to have a benefit, obviously they've got to do better this year. And because the government wants to use this year's culls to help decide whether to extend culling to new areas, well, what they'll need to do is know whether they've been able to reach that 70% figure. Unfortunately, the government's abandoned the monitoring that would have told them that. And they've abandoned the oversight by independent scientists that would have helped to give confidence in whatever it is they conclude.
Well,
as far as I can tell, by the end of this year's culls, they'll have no reliable measure of the extent to which badger numbers have been reduced.
Well, it'll be interesting to ask them why. Rosie Woodroffe, thank you very much indeed.